Warning: the following video contains explicit language which may be offensive to some viewers or inappropriate for children. The content within this video is intended for mature audiences only.
So it's official. My sister just uninvited me from Thanksgiving just because I voted for cheap eggs, and it's bullshit! It's not my fault. I'm a one-issue voter, and that issue is cheap eggs. My sister says she uninvited me just because I've been a sore winner ever since the election. That's not true. It's not my fault that I like to have a 6-egg omelet, eggs Benedict, a side of scrambled eggs, and I wash it all down with 3 eggs cracked into a glass Rocky style for breakfast. How is that my fault? That's just my lifestyle. And she says she uninvited me just because I voted for my Orange King. And I didn't consider her gay interracial marriage and her disabled child who needs special education or the health care our mom needs. I said, I don't know anything about all that, Becky. I'm just trying to bring more angel eggs to Thanksgiving this year. That's what I call deviled eggs, angel eggs. 'Cause I don't want the devil anywhere near my food unless his name's RFK Jr. I said, I'm just trying to save money. And she said, you're going to need it with all the tariffs he's going to put on everything. And I said, well, last time I checked, eggs fall out of a chicken's asshole, and we keep those right here in the United States. I said, you're going to thank me come April when you want to have an Easter egg hunt, or on Independence Day when you're trying to beat the heat with a nice tall glass of eggnog, sitting out there in your lawn chair, lighting off fireworks, trying to rile up all the neighborhood pets and the PTSD veterans. You're going to take a long sip off that, and you're going to think, I'm glad I got my eggnog in July. It just breaks my heart that she chose slightly more expensive eggs over her own brother, her flesh and blood. It looks like I'm riding solo this Thanksgiving. It'll be me, 3 dozen angel eggs, and an emotional support beer for every float they got in the Macy's Day Parade. And I pray to God that RFK Jr. has them take the tryptophan out of these beers, because after about 13 of these bad boys, I get real sleepy. It's enough to make you piss your recliner. So I'm raising my emotional support beer to everybody out there. At least some of you are going to have a good Thanksgiving this year.
Are you ready?
Hey everybody, it's Jeff. So rainy here today. Probably snowing, I think, up in northern Maine, but it's just rain here. But cloudy and gloomy. But I imagine it represents how a lot of people in the country are feeling right now, being cut off from their families because of how they voted in the election. And you know, it's it's going to be a merciless sort of payback for them, because people are, I don't know when they'll ever get forgiven for voting for Trump. I don't know if it's going to be soon, because we still have yet to go through the 4 years with Trump, and there's no telling how bad can get. I mean, I just read this article here from CNN that says Elon Musk had publicized the names of government employees he wants to cut. It's terrifying the federal workers. Who the hell is he to make make it known who he wants to cut? You know, it says when President-elect Trump said Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy would recommend major cuts to the federal government in his administration, many public employees knew their jobs could be on the line. Now, I mean, this was actually, that was laid out in the Project 2025, and I think I read that to you here in a previous video. So, like I said, he's whatever he said he was going to do, he's doing it. Okay. Now they have a new fear: becoming the personal targets of the world's richest man and his legions of followers. You know, they may not be as legion as they were before, but last week, in the midst of the flurry of his daily missives, Musk reposted 2X posts that revealed the names and titles of people holding 4 relatively obscure climate-related government positions. Each post has been viewed tens of millions of times, and the individuals named have been subjected to a barrage of negative attention. At least one of the 4 women named has deleted her social media accounts. You see how they get people targeted? They do it in such a way that's like, well, I didn't intend it for that to be. Of course they know. I mean, if I stuck a damn flag in my window, you know, that was the you know, the Confederate flag, just to piss people off. And when I piss people off, well, I put it there for decoration. I didn't know it was going to piss people off. You know, who's going to believe that? Nobody. Although the information he posted on those government positions is available through public online databases, these posts target otherwise unknown government employees in roles that do not deal directly with the public. Several current federal employees told CNN they're afraid for their lives and will be forever changed, including physically threatened, as Musk makes behind-the-scenes bureaucrats into personal targets. Others told CNN that the threat of being in Musk's crosshairs might even drive them from their jobs entirely, achieving Musk's smaller government goals without so much as a proper review. Quote, these tactics are aimed at sowing terror and fear at federal employees, unquote, said Everett Kelly, president of the American Federation of Government Employees, which represents more than 800,000 of the 2.3 million civilian federal employees. Quote, it's intended to make them fearful that they will become afraid to speak up, unquote. Sounds like what the Nazi Party did in the beginning. This isn't new behavior from Musk, who has often singled out individuals who he claims have made mistakes or stand in his way. One former federal employee, previously targeted by Musk, said she experienced something very similar. Quote, it's his way of intimidating people to either quit or also send a signal to all the other agencies that you're next, unquote, said Mary Cummings, an engineering and computer science professor at George Mason University, who drew Musk's ire because of her criticisms of Tesla when she was at the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. Last week, Musk reposted an account with the handle Fentezl and the name Data Hazard, which describes itself as unincorporated think tank, focused government efficiency, civil rights, victim advocacy. One of the posts read, quote, I don't think the U.S. taxpayer should pay for the employment of a director of climate diversification at the U.S. International Development Finance Corporation, unquote, with a partial screen grab of an employee and her location. Musk, who called himself, quote, super pro-climate, unquote, in an X post last year, reposted and commented, quote, so many fake jobs, unquote. The post has received more than 33 million views and a storm of negative comments. Some call the role a, quote, fraud job, unquote, and others demanded Musk's Department of Government Efficiency cut jobs like it. One user commented, quote, gravy train is over, unquote. It appears the woman Musk targeted has since gone dark on social media, shutting down her accounts. The agency, the U.S. International Development Finance Corporation, says it supports investment in climate mitigation, resilience, and adaptation in low-income countries experiencing the most devastating effects of climate change. A DFC official said the agency does not comment on individual personal positions for matters. Musk also called out the Department of Energy's chief climate officer in its loan programs office. The office funds fledgling energy technologies in need of early investment and awarded $465 million to Tesla Motors in 2010, helping to position Musk's electric vehicle company as an EV industry leader. The chief climate officer works across agencies to, quote, reduce barriers and enable clean energy deployment, unquote, according to her online bio. Another woman who serves as senior advisor on environmental justice and climate change at the Department of Health and Human Services was another Musk target. HHS focuses on protecting the public health from pollution and other environmental hazards, especially in low-income communities and communities of color that are experiencing a higher share of exposures and impacts. The office first launched at Health and Human Services under the Biden administration in 2022. A senior advisor to climate and the Department of Housing and Urban Development was also singled out. The original X post said the woman, quote, should not be paid $181,648 by the U.S. taxpayer to be the climate advisor at HUD. Musk reposted with the comment, quote, but maybe her advice is amazing, unquote, followed by 2 laughing emojis. CNN reached out to all 4 employees who either declined to comment or were unable to be reached. So, yeah, like I said before, these were things that were already set out in Project 2025, which means they're not really Trump's original. I mean, he didn't conjure this up out of his own head. This was from the Heritage Foundation, that Project 2025. And it just so happens that J.D. Vance had a little bit to do with that manifesto. But aside from that, Trump really doesn't have that, that kind of mentality. So, yeah, he endorsed it. He tried to deny it on the campaign trail, but now he's endorsing it. He's already come out and said that's what he's going to do. But this is the Heritage Foundation. Okay, this is their baby. They fucking sat down and drafted this thing out. Okay, and this while Trump was campaigning. Okay, he probably didn't know about it at that time, but I'm sure he read it at some point. And decided, yeah, that's going to be my agenda, but I ain't going to tell them that because it's all in public and everybody's starting to hate it, and so he ain't going to latch onto it until he knows he wins. And so since he won, now he can come out and say all he wants to say about it. Like I said, he doesn't care if people don't like him. He doesn't care. This isn't about him trying to win a popularity contest. He knows he can't win that because of who he is. But it's just him doing the bidding of people who help put him in power. Okay, he's really not in control here. I mean, he can go around shooting his mouth off, but he's going to occupy the White House for the right wing, for the extremists on the right. Okay, those are the people he's working for, and he got what he needed from his MAGA base. Okay, now MAGA is just out in shambles, out in the cold, and he's like, okay, goodbye. I got what I needed out of you, and the end. Okay, so MAGA is going to be rallying for a guy who doesn't even give a shit about them anymore. And it's all true. And, let me, let me put this video up here that I thought was kind of an interesting. It's not that long. It's about 6 minutes. So let's go to this video here.
Not in our town. That's the reaction from some Jackson County residents regarding efforts by out-of-state Christian nationalists to potentially remake their community. Good evening to you. I'm Carrie Sharp.
And I'm Rory Johnston. Our chief investigative reporter, Phil Williams, first broke this story last week about the efforts to, quote, build a town in the county seat of Gainesboro. And that shocked the people who already live there.
After giving residents time to digest this news, Phil went back to town about 90 minutes northeast of Nashville, this time to listen to the people of Jackson County.
How are you? I'm good. How are you? As word has spread across Jackson County, a gathering of friends quickly turned into an impromptu town hall.
Hey there. Hi.
Some just came with questions.
Do you want to sit there and let me hear for a or two?
Others with deep concerns.
We don't want one news story to portray something of Jackson County that we're not.
Their concerns.
We're building a town, right? We're building a community there.
The white Christian nationalists, led by podcasters Andrew Isker and C.J. Engel, now setting their sights on Jackson County and the county seat of Gainesboro, hoping to turn this quaint community of just over 12,000 people into a political haven for others like themselves.
Did anyone have any sense about these people prior to this story?
Among those we met, some had deep roots.
My family's been here for 7 generations.
Others were drawn here by the openness of the people they now call neighbors.
This town is such a loving group of people. I am accepted, even though I came from outside.
And we were there to listen.
What has this story done to this community's sense of well-being?
I think mainly people are scared.
Diane Murphy is vice chair of the local Republican Party.
I listened to the podcasts. I did the research on what you mentioned. It scares me that they are very clear about taking over.
Developers with right-wing ties have purchased hundreds of acres of land in the area, trying to recruit other like-minded people to join Isker and Engel in relocating to Gainesboro. In a video posted online by one of the developers, Isker talks about the ability of those people to get their way in a small community.
Right, you can exercise far more political power, even with a few hundred or a few thousand people, than you can on your own, widely dispersed across the entire country.
When you hear them talking about coming here to build a town, to build a community, what's your reaction?
I'd love to speak to that. That makes me mad.
Diana Manley owns a local restaurant, and she sees a community that's remaking itself without the help of strangers from out of state who don't understand what Jackson County already has.
People from all different walks of life, genealogies, nationalities, race, you name it. We have got a melting pot right here in this small town, all working together to make this town come back to life.
What is it you're afraid of losing?
I don't want to lose what we already have. The sense of community.
It is a very welcoming community, but I think they kind of came in under the radar and want to recreate it in their own image.
Forgive the background noise. I'm actually here at a watch party with the Jackson County GOP.
On election night, the podcasters monitored the results from Gainesboro, with the real estate developer behind the project, Josh Abatoy, doing a live report from a local watch party that he had hosted. One of their podcast buddies also set up an account on X, formerly Twitter, that claimed to represent the views of the local Republican Party.
It said it was the official account of the Jackson County GOP.
But it was not.
Party Chair Bo Smith learned about the account from News Channel 5 Investigates. We also showed him where Engel had tweeted that the best way forward for Christian nationalists is to take over local level outlets of the Republican Party.
So that's not going to happen, especially now due to your reporting. We're thankful for that. And, knowing these people are in our community is a big deal.
Have these Christian nationalist podcasters, these developers, tried to have a meeting like this to sit down and answer your questions?
There's wolf in sheep's
But what really concerned these Jackson County residents, some who were reluctant for their faces to be on camera, are the podcasters' views that the civil rights movement was a mistake, that foreigners who've become U.S. citizens still don't belong in America.
What is it you would like for these people coming in from out of state to know? What message would you have for these people?
This town is not for them.
Bigotry's not one.
No, it's not for them.
We are not that community, and we don't want to be a part of a racial hate community.
God made men to rule, period.
Then there are their views on women and how they detest the specific impact of college-educated white women on the culture of the world they see around them.
The white women on Facebook that you're referring to, they are probably the scariest thing that these guys are going to have to deal with now.
What I saw and heard on this day is that if the Christian nationalists think Gainsborough and Jackson County is a place where people all think like them, they don't know Jackson County.
These people's views do not represent our community. And if they think they're going to come in here and take over and force their views on everybody else, they're going to have a fight on their hands.
Bill Williams, News Channel 5 Investigates.
So with these people in that town, Gainsborough in Jackson County, okay, and they said, if you was paying attention in the video, they're Republicans. These people that they were interviewing in that room, they're Republicans. And that one lady was the head of that Republican committee there in that town. What I don't understand, watching that, is they're mad about the white nationalists wanting to come into that town and essentially take it over, to make it their own little home for like-minded racists. These people in the town that are already there are saying, no, you can't come here and start that shit in, okay? Yet they voted for Donald Trump. What makes him any better than the white nationalists that are going into that town to take it over? You see what I'm saying? They're being hypocritical here. They're sitting here on one hand saying that they don't represent our values, okay? Yet on the other hand, they supported and elected a man who does support white nationalist thought. So why the fuck are these people, you know, not seeing the hypocrisy in what they say? How do they not see that? You know, and it's only because for some reason along the way, they just, you know, kind of redacted everything in their memory about anything that Trump might have said that was anti-black, anti-this, anti-whatever, okay? And all they wanted to see was a victory. They wanted to see him win the White House. Like I said, this is like a football game to a lot of people in this country. You laugh at that when I say it, but it's the truth. You know, people look at that as a big fucking game. They don't realize that elections have consequences to everybody. Okay, it's not a game, you know, at the end. And when the election is over, it's no longer a game. And of course, right now, MAGA's finding that out, because everything that, you know, they thought Trump wasn't going to do, he is doing. He is doing, okay? And they don't like it. And already the divisions are starting. You know, MAGA is going to be fighting with MAGA. You know, they're losing their families and everything. And it's only been, what, 3 weeks since the election? And it's already falling apart. MAGA's already coming down. And it's like, you know, to say I told you so would not be enough. Okay? I could hire an airplane to write in smoke in the sky, I told you so. That wouldn't be enough. The whole country went into this thing knowing Trump. Okay? Everybody, there was no excuse for somebody to say that, you know, he's a good No, we had 4 years of him already. He proved he's a fucking asshole. All right? So there was no reason for anybody to think differently of that. Okay? Unless you were born yesterday. All right? So they went into this thing eyes wide open into this election. They knew who he was and everything. And in this little town, they are all of a sudden sounding like Democrats. Okay? And I'm thinking, it's laughable. It's sad, but it's laughable, because these are the people who actually created the problem that now they face. Okay? They face this because now these white Christian nationalists feel emboldened to just come out without their hoods on anymore to say and do what they want with this country and what they want to do in this town. Hey, don't blame the Democrats. We were always opposed to these folks. You guys, you Republicans, you enabled them. You enabled them because you didn't think it was going to impact you personally. But now that it does, you're all sounding like Democrats now. We don't want their kind here. You know, and it's funny because in that video, all these people in that room that were Republican, all of them are white. And that one lady says, this is a melting pot community. Really? Where's the other parts? Because the Republicans only represent the white people. There weren't any blacks in there or Latinos in that group. They were all white people. And they trying to sound like Democrats. I mean, if they really believed what they were saying, and they had any problems with the white supremacists and all that trying to get into their town to make a home, then their reasoning behind voting for Trump is in question, big time. And I don't think these people are going to be as high-minded about it when they start coming in. They'll roll over just like anybody else that's MAGA. Okay, they may not like it at first, but they'll warm up to it because they're Republican. They're halfway there already, right? So these people are blowing all the smoke, okay, and it's going to be for nothing. And I think the white Christian nationalists know that too. Because, hey, why would they be picking that town? They know there's mostly Republican in there, right? That'd be a good place to start. I mean, that's what they did up here in Maine. Okay, you got members of the Klan that came from another state. I can't remember which one it was. But they came all the way up here. Why? Because there's places in Maine that are just, you know, you can be what you want here. We don't care, you know. And, you know, so they come up here. And they're trying to make a little community in Maine. Doing the same fucking thing. Making like outposts all over the country here for them to gather to spread hatred and stuff in the areas that they're in. But that's what's going on here in Gainsborough, is that they picked that town to plant the seeds of racism and hatred there. And you know, it's a red state there, and you know, so it's not like you know, they deliberately picked, you know, a blue state to do this, and they went where it's safe, okay? Yeah, the people don't like the idea of the Klan moving into their town, okay? Because that's what these white Christian nationalists are. That's just a prettier name to say than just the Ku Klux Klan, because that's what that is, all right? They just don't wear the sheets anymore. But when the Klan's going to move into that town and say, we're taking it over, and it's going to be a Klan-only town or whatever, okay? Yeah, that's going to freak out some people that'll live in there, but if they're already Republican and they're already the kind of people who have voted for Trump, then they'll be fine after a while, right? You know, they'll be okay. It's no big thing for them. You know, it's just, it gets them a little bit on the news, you know, to show a little bit of, you know, Republican infighting and stuff, but, you know, like I said, they'll roll over quickly enough once they move in. So if I was them, I wouldn't, you know, all this big talk about, dang, you're gonna go after the women in this town, they got their, you know, that's all talk, okay? That's just like the way MAGA was talking to every Democrat out there, that Trump's gonna win, he's gonna win, and everybody, you guys are gonna suffer. You know, it's all big fucking talk. But it don't mean nothing, because at the end of the day, they'll, like I said, they'll roll over, and the Klan will take over that town, and, you know, that's the way it'll be. And they'll roll with them, too, eventually. So, anyway, let's go to a commercial break, and we will return.
This is me.
This is me.
This is me!
This is me.
I'm Alex Curtis. I'm a lobsterman in Maine, and this is me.
I'm Ruth McLaughlin, and this is me.
I'm Eric Hopkins. I'm an artist, and this is me.
This is me.
Me.
This is me.
This is me.
This is me.
At the end of the journey, the main thing is you. Original.
Hi, everybody. It's the holidays, and I think during this time it's really important to think about the less fortunate. And if you have the ability to donate to your local organizations, be it your time, money, or food to a local food bank, and really help out your communities. But I came across this one story on TikTok that really pulled at my heartstrings, and I really want my followers to watch this and consider helping out.
The reality is, I have no cash.
No!
It's all tied up.
No.
So right now, if I wanted to call a taxi cab,
Oh, no.
I can't do it.
Oh, God.
I don't have a credit card. I don't have a checking account. I have no place I can go take cash out except the little bit that I saved, and it's getting down to almost nothing.
Oh, you
This
poor
is
man.
a
I know that's really hard to watch, especially because the saying here in New York is, if one New Yorker is suffering, we are all suffering. Listen, Rudy, I maxed out on my donations for this year, so the only thing that I could possibly offer you is some advice. Just pick yourself up by your bootstraps, Rudy. Maybe cut out the Starbucks or the avocado toast. And the rents are really high here in New York City, which you had a hand in because you just let corporations run rampant here in the city during your tenure. And don't even think about becoming homeless, right? Because when Donald Trump takes office, it's gonna be a crime. And I know he doesn't want your kooky ass in Mar-a-Lago. Maybe he'll put you up in one of the tent cities he's planning on building. And I also noticed you weren't on Donald Trump's private plane when he was hosting a wonderful dinner with Elon Musk and RFK, his son, Mike Johnson, where he served up a nice warm meal of McDonald's. I'm sure you were salivating. And I don't even know if you have a place to go for Thanksgiving tomorrow, because your daughter hates you. Who remembers this essay she put out for Vanity Fair? And I wish I could say I feel sorry for you. And as an empath, that's really hard for me. But considering the fact that you lied to so many first responders after 9/11 when it came to the safety of the air and conditions over at Ground Zero and led them to their deaths, and then had to watch as your party relentlessly tried to take their benefits away from them, it's kind of hard for me to muster a fuck to give. Never forget, right, Rudy? Good luck with that. Anyways, bye!
Be a part of the entertainment value of a lifetime. loved it.
It was the best performance I've seen in a lifetime.
I loved the show. I liked it very much. He's a very entertaining man. It's well worth the money.
Now appearing in Charlottetown, coming to Halifax November 6th to the 18th, and St. John November 20th through the 26th.
Welcome back, everybody. So, I found this kind of interesting in the subject of who Trump is picking here to run different things. This story comes from the Daily Beast, written by Sean Craig. It's entitled, "Trump Taps Financier and Art Collector with No Military Experience to Run the Navy." President-elect Trump announced Tuesday that he will nominate an art-collecting Republican mega-donor who works in finance and has no military experience to run the Navy. Mega-donor, that's the key thing. That's all that mattered for Trump. Quote, "It is my great honor to announce John Phelan," I guess that's how you say it, "as our next United States Secretary of the Navy," unquote, Trump said in a statement. Quote, "John will be a tremendous force for our naval service members and a steadfast leader in advancing my America First vision," unquote. Well, what's he going to do, paint pictures for him? Phelan heads Palm Beach-based private investment firm Rugger Management and formerly managed the investments of billionaire Michael Dell. His sole qualification for the Navy job seems to be that he helped the Trump campaign raise a lot of money. One fundraiser he hosted for Trump at his $38 million Aspen, Colorado home this summer cost $25,000 to $500,000 per couple. Quote, "Phelan has not served in the Navy or any other branch of the military," unquote, tweeted Army veteran Paul Rick Reichhoff, the founder of the nonprofit Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America group. Quote, "But he is a big Trump donor, the least qualified and most overtly political cabinet in American history continues to expand," unquote. And of course, Phelan has not served in the Navy or of any other branch of military service, but he is a big Trump donor. Quote, "His record of success speaks for itself. A true champion of American enterprise and ingenuity," unquote, added Trump. Quote, "John's intelligence and leadership are unmatched," unquote. Politico reported that Trump picked him following interviews at Mar-a-Lago on Monday. Representative Mike Garcia, Republican from California, a retired naval aviator who deployed in Iraq, and Representative Ronnie Jackson, a retired Navy captain who was Trump's chief medical advisor in his first administration, were also rumored to be in the running. And why didn't he pick either one of them, you know? No, he wanted the guy that gave him a lot of money. Phelan and his wife, Amy, a former Dallas Cowboys cheerleader, were named among the world's top 200 art collectors by Art News earlier this year. Their collection was described by a Christie's auction house curator as a, quote, "celebration of the sexual side of life with a sense of humor," unquote, in 2008. Among their Picassos, Dubuffets, and Chagall's are many works of blonde women who look like Amy, including some that are her W magazine reported. You know, why is it these people that he picks, you know, always got to have something in there, the sexual side of, you know what I'm saying? Dallas Cowboys cheerleader, you know, and, you know, all this other shit. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I mean, maybe, you know, there's more to it than just the money, you know? Maybe this guy Phelan and Jeffrey Epstein might have hung around too, you know? Who knows? From 06 to 19, They hosted an annual wine testing event, Wine Crush, as part of the Aspen Art Museum's Summer Art Crush Gala. Admissions to the museum has been free since '09, according to its website, thanks to Phelan's patronage. Among those drawn to the event over the years was wine lover and Keeping Up with the Kardashians matriarch Kris Jenner and her partner Corey Gamble. Another one of Trump's leading picks to lead the military, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, has faced blowback after allegations that he sexually assaulted a woman at a hotel in 2017. Hegseth denies the claim, says the encounter was consensual. Meanwhile, longtime Trump advisor Boris Epshteyn is under internal investigation for allegedly offering pay-to-play cash access to the president-elect, including seeking cash payments from would-be cabinet nominees. He denies the allegations. There is no indication Phelan interacted with Epstein. Quote, "No one can promise any endorsement or nomination except me," unquote, Trump told Just the News earlier this week. Quote, "I make these decisions on my own, period," unquote. Okay, well, if he can prove to me that an artist, an art dealer, whatever you want to call him, can run the military, then that doesn't say a whole lot for the military. All right, all right, because I really feel like, because we've held the title in the world here for having the best military in the world, we have to conclude that it's been run by the best minds in the world that keep it that way. But if you put this bastard in there, okay, just because he gave Trump a big wad of fucking cash, okay, if you're going to base it on that, he's only going to benefit Trump. He ain't going to benefit the Navy. I mean, obviously, you want somebody that's going to run the branches of the service to have at least a little bit of fucking military background, or at least somebody who was in the military and recently retired, like a general, right? That's what you want. Smart thinking. Okay? But no, not with Trump. He goes after those people who kiss the ring. And obviously this guy has kissed his ring big time, and that's why he wants him. Only surround yourself with people who are going to be loyal only to you. Okay? He doesn't want anybody that's going to be loyal to the Constitution, because he's going to throw that out. Okay? He's going to set fire to that Constitution and everything that goes with it. So, in the end, what he's going to want are people who will swear to him loyally. He's going to find that's not going to work with a lot of people in the military, because when they took the oath, they got their jobs by quoting how they wanted to uphold the Constitution as being in the military. Now, if you ask these people to turn their backs on it, then that means they've broken their oath and they should be removed from service. Okay? I mean, if I was president, I wouldn't want somebody that isn't loyal to the country and how, and everything it stands for, because you don't know what you're going to get then. That's how you end up getting people that are like spies, because you don't vet them enough, or you don't get somebody that's pledged their loyalty to the country at large, to whatever the principles it stands on. If they come to you and say they'll do things for you, okay, and only for you, then, hey, they can be bought by anybody. These people will come and go in your life. I mean, how do you think that happens in the world where people's loyalties shift all the time? It's because of money. This guy pays more. Well, I'm going to be loyal to him now. But you don't want that. You want somebody who is going to stand on principle. Okay, someone who's not going to turn their back on their country. And if you're a president who believes in the Constitution, then they won't turn their back on you either. Okay? That's how it's supposed to work. All the boats have to be aimed in the same direction. But if you got a boat that wants to bully the other boats out of the fucking way, I mean, hey, that's not going to work. That's not going to work. And, especially right now where tensions are so high in the Pacific, You don't want a guy like this in the running the Navy, because that's what's out there right now is our fucking Navy. They're out there watching what's going on in Taiwan and China, because, you know, the Chinese are out there with their ships and everything, and we're out there with ours. I mean, anything could happen. Anytime something could happen, and you're not going to want somebody who's sitting here painting a Picasso in his fucking house when war is declared. All right, this guy, it's fighting a war is not about cash and paychecks. Okay, it's different, and this guy's got no experience with that. How the hell is he supposed to manage this thing? You know, he ain't going to be able to. It's just ridiculous. All right, so I have video here about Trump here and what's more things he's going to do. So let's go to that video here, and we'll be right back.
Welcome to the show. Happy Thanksgiving, too, by the way. Hope everybody's having a good one out there. Try not to get too triggered by your MAGA uncle. There's always another room in the house. There's always a TV you can zone out and watch. So don't get too frustrated. By the way, I feel your pain. So in just a second, we're going to get to a MAGA hell state implementing the worst possible tax policy and just how much that's going to screw regular people. We'll also get to the United States defending Israel's murder of a 5-year-old girl in Gaza. That's a disgusting story. Then I'll discuss Trump's massive illegal surveillance plot. And we have the first official 2028 presidential favorites revealed in a new poll. And then later on, Trump is already committing to decimating student loan debt relief, and he's demanding higher payments than there were. So, I mean, just as bad as you can get, if I'm being honest with you. So everybody do me a big favor. Please subscribe to the channel. That helps out massively, and it costs you absolutely nothing. And much love to everybody who supports this show on Patreon or tips on YouTube. I deeply appreciate it. This is real independent media. It's not fake independent media like so many others in this space. All right, let's go ahead and dive into it. In the state of Louisiana, lawmakers just passed an income and corporate tax cut, and they raised statewide sales taxes to pay for it. So let me tell you what their strategy usually is. When Republicans are campaigning, they talk a lot about tax cuts. In fact, it's their number one policy proposal that is the most consistent year after year, election cycle after election cycle. And what they do is they try to convince people, I'm talking about you. I'm talking about your taxes. Regular Joe Schmo out there, regular Jane Doe out there. In fact, I remember having a conversation with my uncle. My uncle was a evangelical Christian and a hardcore Republican. And I remember him saying to me when I was still either in high school or college, he's like, soon as you get out in the real world, man, you'll understand why it makes sense to vote Republican because you want to keep more of your paycheck. This is what he said to me. And so my whole life, this is the dominant narrative. This is the branding that the country has accepted. Republicans want to let you keep more of your money. Democrats want to take more of your money and give it elsewhere. This is the narrative. Here's the problem with that. It's completely and utterly untrue. In fact, every election cycle from the very first one where I could vote, if you look at the tax plans of both the Democrats and the Republicans, the Democrats cut taxes more for working people, and the Republicans cut taxes more for wealthy people. So here we go, the state of Louisiana. Let me give you some of this. Louisiana's GOP-dominated legislature passed tax cuts on personal and corporate income on Friday in exchange for a statewide sales tax increase, giving Governor Jeff Landry much of what he wanted after his original tax reform package faced mounting resistance from lawmakers and lobbyists. The final passage of the tax measures wrapped up a special legislative session launched November 6th by the governor and his allies. They said their purpose was to make the state's tax code more business-friendly, create jobs, and reverse trends of outward migration from the state. It was the third special legislative session called by Landry, a Republican, since he assumed office in January. Critics warned the tax reforms would primarily benefit corporate shareholders and wealthy taxpayers, while the sales tax increase would exacerbate Louisiana's regressive tax system, where poor households pay a higher percentage of their income on taxes. So in other words, this is what's called a regressive tax system. You're effectively increasing taxes on the poor and the middle and lowering them on the wealthy. In fact, I have the exact numbers here for you. So this is what they did. They did a tax increase for Louisianans with incomes under $22,000 a year. The poorest people are going to have to pay more in taxes. They did an average tax cut of $87 for those earning $55,900, and they did an average tax cut of $15,400 a year for the wealthiest 1%. Now, look, you might look at this and say, well, hold on now. This isn't the MAGA plan. This is just some Joe Schmo Republican. Wrong. There was an analysis done recently, and I shared this with you at the time, by the ITEP. And they do, tax policy stuff. They crunch the numbers. Here's what Trump's tax plan would look like. Ready? If you're in the poorest 20%, you have to pay $790 more. If you're in the second 20%, you have to pay $1,430 more. Middle 20%, $1,530 more. Fourth 20%, $1,790 more. Then you have still a tax increase of $610 for the bracket above that. And then the only people that get an effective tax cut under Trump's economic policies, the top 5%. So the top 4 get a tax cut of $7,160, and then the top 1% get a tax cut of $36,320. So the bottom 95% of the country under Trump's tax plan, the bottom 95% see a tax increase, and the top 5% see a tax cut. Remember, guys, it was in Trump's first term that for the first time in U.S. history, the average middle-class family was paying more as a percentage for their taxes than billionaires were. That happened under Trump's first term. The effective tax rate was lower for billionaires than it was for a working-class family. And now they're planning on exacerbating that. They want to shake down the bottom and shake down the middle while letting the rich run out the back door with all the money. Guys, call it what it is. This is class warfare. Especially since we have that Rand Corporation study, which found that from the 1970s until today, the top 1% has stolen $50 trillion from the bottom 90%. $50 trillion. So in other words, if you just kept the wealth disparity the same today as it was in like 1974, if you just did that, every working American in this country would get an extra $1,144 per month, every year for the rest of their life. This is what happens when you have billionaires and corporations completely take over the government. This is what happens when they rig the rules in their favor. This is the kind of system that we're living under. They've already declared class war on you. You might as well declare it back on them. This is what MAGA is for. This is what they support. Louisiana is a classic example of it. It was either Kansas or Oklahoma. I'm blanking on which one. They had a horrific, destructive system that they did in the 2010s, which was horrible, led to massive exploding state deficits, and screwed over working class people, helped out rich people. This is what they do. This is what happened under George W. Bush. This is what happened under Ronald Reagan. This is Republican ideology. This is what it is. So every time they virtue signal like they're in favor of working class people and they're going to cut your taxes, they're not. Don't take their word for it. Look at the actual policies. Look at the actual numbers. Look at the actual results. Because every time they talk about cutting taxes, they don't mean on you. Let me repeat that. They don't mean on you. And the Democrats, by the way, never talk about the fact that really they're in favor of tax cuts for working people. They never really talk about that. But Democrats are more the party that wants to cut taxes for working people. And this is what the Republicans have to offer. So this MAGA hellscape, hell state is only going to get worse and worse and worse.
Okay, so, this whole thing here about who's going to get most of the wealth, right now as it stands, and Bernie Sanders and Robert Reich have repeated this over and over again in many, many years, that the top 1% of this country owns more wealth than the bottom 80% of the population, okay? They own all of that. The rest of what's left over, we're fighting with amongst each other at the bottom. And you can't sustain a country like that. You can't. And expect it to be economically sound. Because what they've done is they've taken Wall Street, and it's been like this probably for a lot longer than now, but Wall Street is really just a place for the rich now, okay? I remember when I was in school back in the 80s, there were teachers that bragging about how they had stock in this and stock in that, and and I'm thinking, well, you know what, they're buying like penny stocks or something like that, and they think they're setting themselves up for their retirement. I laugh now because they were so stupid back then to think that they were going to get anything big. You don't make money in Wall Street unless you put big money into it, okay? Because if you're just buying 20 bucks here, 50 bucks there, and you expect a return of triple or quadruple that, you're going to be waiting a long time because it doesn't work like that. All right, these stocks, they're up and down, and and if you can't afford to lose big, then you can't really invest in that. You can't, because you have to be able to lose big money and then recoup by investing big money in the end. So you basically got to start off a wealthy person to begin with to be playing on there. All right, and it used to be, people used to like the idea, well, if you work for Sears or something, you automatically get some of the stock. Like, oh, that's a big treat. Especially in this day and age where people keep a job for like maybe 4 years and then they're gone and into another one. Okay, it's not an incentive anymore. It's a laugh, it's a joke, it's a slap in the face, because they're not going to give you anything that's going to matter at the end of the day for a stock. They don't care, because it's the wealthy that they care about. Your little nickels and dimes ain't going to matter a hill of beans to the overall value of that company. Okay, you'll be the first to go if they needed to get rid of you. But that's how much, people, back then really understood, the stock market. And those are the people, by the way, who voted for Trump. Okay, so, these people, they're living in a bygone era. And Trump represents that era. He's the 80s. Trump is the 80s. Okay, these movies that you see that are era specific about the 80s and the greedy and the corrupt that were there at the time. Trump is from that era. He's one of them fuckers, okay? And we grew up watching that shit going on in the 80s, and people felt like, they had to be they had to look wealthy and powerful to be seen and noticed in those days. And that really played a lot in the mentality of people in that generation back then. And Trump is a regurgitation of that era, which has been rejected already, in many circles. The Reaganomics was bad. Trickle-down economics doesn't work. Okay, we rejected all that shit that went on in the 80s, but you still got people didn't learn anything from that. Even after they've gone through the fallout of the 80s, through the 90s, where they've lost all kinds of assets, went bankrupt, okay, during the 90s because of their big spending sprees during the 80s. They still want to go back to that, and that's ridiculous because it didn't work then. It's not going to work now. And the idea, if we cut taxes on the rich, it'll make things better. No, it doesn't make things better, because when you cut from the top, you got to make up for that somewhere. And what's cut at the top lands on to us as our responsibility to pay for them. Okay? If they're not going to pay the appropriate amount of taxes for their income, then we have to make up that difference in order to fund the government. And so what they do is they say, well, we don't need to fund the government. We can get rid of this and we can get rid of that. Okay, so now we're going to cut people out of work in the federal government. Okay, we're going to close down departments like the Department of Education, and the Department of Labor, or Department of the Climate. He wants to get rid of all these departments. Okay, but do you think that's going to mean the taxes on us are going to be less? No. They'll still be up. I mean, hey, when do they ever reduce taxes on the rich, okay? I mean, on the poor, rather, okay? They never do. When it goes up, it stays up. It never comes back down. They never hardly ever cut the taxes, okay? Because nobody wants to have to see an increase on the wealthy. Their taxes go down and down and down every fucking 10 years or so. I mean, it goes way down. And for the poor, We don't see that. We see it going up all the fucking time. And at the same time, the cost of living goes up and our wages don't. But they expect us somehow to give everything we earn to them. You know, leaving nothing for us. They see you're living in a cardboard box out on the street, give that to me. You know, they don't care. They just don't care. So when people out there like MAGA are out there clapping and applauding Trump when he says he's going to cut taxes on the rich, you're only clapping and applauding your throat being cut at the end, because that's who's going to pay it, you. You know? And don't say like I don't know what I'm talking about. We told you about what a tariff is and you guys didn't know what that is. All right? You didn't know what a tariff was until you bothered to take the time to look it up on Google. Okay? So believe me, when it comes to knowing about what's going on with that, you guys have no background to open your yap, okay? You need to start listening more to what Democrats are telling you, because you'll be safer that way. But I'm telling you, the taxes he wants to cut on the rich aren't going to help anything in this country. It's only going to make things worse, especially when he starts his tariff war and it creates, you know, record inflation in this country again. And people didn't like the prices at the grocery stores, remember? You know, that's what they were bitching at Biden about, which he had no control over because the inflation had begun during COVID when Trump was president, okay? But it wasn't really Trump so much that caused the inflation, because it was happening around the fucking world. Because everybody was suffering under COVID. Supply chains were stopped, okay? People were, you know, forced basically in their homes. Remember how dead New York City was? Okay, that was like that everywhere. People were trying to avoid each other because, you know, they didn't want to get sick. So things were falling apart. When Biden got in there, you know, and COVID started to settle and they started lifting restrictions, okay, he tried to get the economy going again. It doesn't happen overnight, you know, okay? But we kept the inflation down here, even though it was up. But it was much higher in other countries who hadn't done the same thing that Biden did to try to hold it down, okay? And while he was doing that and things started to come back together, guess what happened? Corporations were saying, Jesus, we made more goddamn money during the COVID than we ever thought. You know, hey, they weren't going to lower their fucking prices. even though the you know, people were getting back to work and the supply chains were rebuilding, you know, themselves and everything, and things started to moving again. No, gas prices are going to stay right where they are. Food prices the same. And who gets blamed for that? Biden. Like he can control that. They blame him for these corporate, you know, and if he tried to come out and say, oh, I'm going to do an executive action or something to lower the price of this or that, you know what would have happened? MAGA would have come out of there and said, oh, he's trying to destroy our economy. Okay, they'd have said something stupid like that. All right. Now, you see, that's why you know we shouldn't really give people any sympathy on MAGA, especially those who got their asses cut off this Thanksgiving here, because they really earned it. They really earned what they're getting now. Okay, they worked hard all year long to get Trump reelected, and they got what they wanted so badly. But like somebody had said to me before, MAGA likes to play the victim. That's what they do. They used to accuse Democrats of always crying and whining about their losses. No, now MAGA owns that now. It's them now. They're the ones, they got what they wanted and they're still pissed. They got what they wanted and they're angry. They got what they wanted and now they're wondering why people don't want to talk to them anymore. Okay? You guys, that's what, when we say you need to get woke, that's what we're talking about. You know, you need to smarten the fuck up, and what we used to say, you know, decades back. Smarten the fuck up. You guys who go around with your head in the clouds, you know, and you think, you know, your way is the only way, and you won't listen to anybody that tells you different. This is what happens. Okay? You jumped off a building, you thought a man could fly, and you landed right on the hood of a car, and you got yourself hurt. This is what happens. We told you not to do that, but you did it anyway. All right? You can't go through life with blinders on. You can't. And when it comes to elections, it's not fun and games. It's a fucking blood sport is what it is, because people's lives are on the line when you vote in elections. They have consequences. It's a very important duty that we're supposed to take with all kinds of respect and seriousness. Okay? It's like when you step into a church, a lot of you know, you're not going to go in there and start whipping it out and jerking off in the middle of the mass, right? Same fucking thing with an election. That's just as fucking serious, you know, and sacred a thing for this country, because it's your fucking opportunity to tell people, you know, or to give your opinion and who you want and what you want, okay? It's not something to be trifled with or taken lightly. But you've learned this, and I hope for a lot of you people, you've learned a powerful lesson here, because I mean we're gonna have to suffer 4 years of indignity in this country because of your mistake. And I hope that after that 4 years, you'll be able to come back around and do whatever you can to undo your mistake, because we're going to be looking to you to be able to learn from this, okay? So stop acting childish and start understanding. Start, you know, looking deep into yourself and finding out who and what you are. You can't go around saying, you know, I care about all Americans, you know, and I care about people's rights and stuff like that, and then vote for a guy like Trump. The two things don't come together, okay? Trump doesn't believe in any of that stuff. He never did. He never did. If you don't believe me, you can just look it up. Just go on Wikipedia if you want and type in his name. They're going to give you a whole history of this bastard. Okay, you're going to see a pattern. You're going to see a pattern there. It's something that you guys should have noticed beforehand, but I guess a lot of you people went to these rallies and slept at the rallies, you know, because you didn't listen to what he was telling you. He told you flat out what he was going to do. Everything he said he wanted to do, he's going to do. He wasn't bullshitting you. He wasn't exaggerating to get giggles and laughs, okay, because nobody was laughing, you know, when he was talking his shit, okay? Nobody was laughing about that. They were applauding. So you have to own what you did. Okay, so that's it for today, and I hope everybody has a great Thanksgiving holiday. So subscribe, comment, and share, and keep your ears open for any health issues, and treat each other nice out there, and I'll see you all another time, so take care, buddy.